does all that energy come from in the first place?
It's always there. Energy can't be created or destroyed, but it's constantly moving around the universe, in and out of different matter. Heat is transferred in 3 different ways: radiation, conduction, and convection.
But which one is responsible for burning my hand?
Let's talk about radiation first. Radiation is the transfer of heat through electromagnetic waves that move through space.
Sun rays?
Yup, the sun sends its heat right through the air. It doesn't need to touch anything to transfer its heat.
Well, I sure can feel it.
Yeah, you can. When heat is transferred by radiation, it moves from one object to the next without having them touch.
Oh yeah, I can feel the heat without even touching it.
Now when you do touch the laptop...
Not doing that again.
Okay, but when you did it in a different way, directly from the laptop to your hand, that's called conduction.
So conduction transfers heat between things that touch.
Yep, when conduction happens, heat is always transferred from the hot to the cool object. The particles in the hot object are moving faster than those in the cold object. When the objects touch, the cooler object's particles get pushed and start moving faster, and it warms up.
Sounds like heat is contagious. How come when I touch the grass right next to my laptop, it's not as hot? It's been sitting in the sun, too.
Good question. Some objects are good conductors. They let heat pass through them very easily. Your laptop is metal, and metal is an excellent conductor. The grass we're standing on is an insulator, the opposite of a conductor. Insulators are difficult for heat to move through, so they stay cooler.
Thank goodness it's so hot today. Know what sounds good?
A dip in your pool?
You said it. But wait, how come the water in my pool stays so cool?
Sometimes heat is reflected or bounced back. The pool water reflects the sun's rays, just like the water in the world.
Ugh, this water's warm. What happened to reflection?
That's convection for you. The transfer of heat through a liquid or gas.
But the water's inside this bottle.
Sometimes convection works along with conduction. The water started out cool, but through conduction and radiation, your hand and the sun have warmed it. Both transferred heat to the bottle and warmed it up. Then the heat from the bottle was transferred to the water. The movement of the water then spread the heat around until all of it is warm. When heat moves through water or gas, it's called convection. Same thing happens when you heat soup or water for tea on the stove.
2 things I'm definitely not going to be doing today. Okay, so heat is different from temperature then. It's the amount of thermal energy that exists in matter, while temperature is a measurement of the amount of thermal energy within an object. An object that has little thermal energy has a low temperature, and vice versa. Heat is always being transferred in one of 3 ways: radiation, conduction, and convection. And it's always moving from warmer objects to cooler objects. That said, I like our warm, sweaty selves into that cool pool of mine.
I'll race you there.
Okay, that is the end of the video. We're going to go to the next slide, and the topic here is emissivity. Okay, this is one common question which you're going to encounter in your 2 marks. What is meant by emissivity? Okay, emissivity is the measure of a surface's efficiency in transferring infrared energy. It is the ratio of thermal energy emitted by a surface to the energy emitted by a perfect black body at the same temperature. Black body, as you all know, is an object which absorbs and re-emits all of its energy. That is only theoretically possible. Actually, in practice, there is no black body. Okay, human skin is nearly a perfect black body, as it has an emissivity of 0.98. That is almost close to 1. Okay, regardless of the actual skin color, you might be dark in color or you might be fair in color, but still your skin has an emissivity of 0.9. If an object has low emissivity, IR instruments, those are your infrared instruments, will indicate a lower temperature than the true surface temperature. Okay. Most systems and instruments provide the ability for the operator to adjust the emissivity of the object being measured. Sometimes spray paints, powders, tape, or emissivity dots are used to improve the emissivity of an object. Okay, we are going to study about all these things. What are the implications of paints and all? Okay, what will happen if at all you don't paint an object, and what will paint an object? How the thermal image is going to vary? All these things we are going to see in the coming classes. Okay, what exactly happens is that the emissivity will be increased. Thereby, the IR instruments can catch hold of the radiation much more effectively. Okay, next slide. I hope everybody is in slide 20. I'm just reading out the slide number because I don't know what is happening with you. Slide number 27. Okay, this is the principle on which your this unit, infrared thermography unit, is actually going to work. Okay, this is a small image, and people who have been attending my class, they know that whenever there is an image, first thing you have to do is you have to carefully identify all the components in an image. Okay, you have to understand the image, and if at all you understand the image properly, then there will not be any difficulty for you to write the same thing in the or replicate the same thing in your examination. Okay, so this is a very simple image. I'm going to read out the parts in this. There is a display here, there is a processor here, there is a IR camera here. Okay, there is a bearing. Okay, and in the brackets it is written as a defective bearing. Okay, and there is a shaft. Okay, this shaft is running through the bearing. Okay, so from this diagram what we can infer is different mechanical subjects, what you can infer is that because this bearing has become defective, it is generating excess heat. Okay, if at all the bearing would not have been defective, it might not have been giving out the same amount of heat as it is giving now. Okay, because it is a defective bearing, it is giving excess amount of heat which is coming out in the form of radiation. This you are not able to see. Okay, only an IR camera can be has the capacity to see it. Okay, so we are keeping an IR camera and we are capturing the excess heat that is coming out, okay, due to friction by defective bearing. And this IR camera, whatever it has captured, those images, they are being processed. Okay, they will be processed in the processor and they will be displayed with temperature variations. Okay, that means some objects will be shown with lower color coding will be given to the image. That means some objects will be given a different color coding which are having lower temperature, and some objects which are having different color coding. This is similar to what you have been doing in your ANSYS and CATIA. Whenever you do an analysis, the output will be having different colors, with red being the color associated to a zone where maximum stress is involved or maximum temperature is there. Okay, similar will be the sort of thing with this technology also. So I'm going to explain the diagram once again. Please listen. There is a display, there is a processor, there is a IR camera, there is a shaft, and there is a bearing. Okay, because this bearing is defective, it is generating excess heat, okay, due to the friction by defective bearing, and this excess heat we are capturing by an IR camera. Whatever is being captured by your IR camera, that is being processed in the processor, and from the processor the output will be displayed in the display screen. Okay, or as an image you can see the output. Okay, this is the basic principle. So here the main thing involved is your IR camera. These IR cameras actually facilitate non-contact type of inspection. We are not even touching the object. We can stay at a certain distance from the object, but still we can do the testing. Okay, I'm going to the next slide. Okay, whatever we have discussed in the previous slide, it will be in the written format. Okay, I'll read through it, and wherever required I will give an explanation. Every object whose surface temperature is above absolute zero radiates energy at a wavelength corresponding to its surface temperature. This we have already discussed. Okay, that is to minus 273.15 degrees centigrade. Any object which is having a temperature greater than minus 273.15 degrees centigrade, that is going to emit out radiation. Okay, infrared radiation will be coming out, or infrared waves will be coming out of it. Okay, utilizing high sensitive infrared cameras, it is possible to convert this radiated energy into a thermal image of the object being surveyed. Okay, so we are going to use highly sensitive, and then we are going to convert the radiated energy into a thermal image. Okay, in the previously first video what you have seen, there was a slide where it was shown the ordinary image in comparison to your thermal image. Thermal image will be different to your ordinary image. Okay, thermal image of the object being surveyed. Okay, next one, colored thermograms. Colored thermograms and control photos are provided of problem areas uncovered during the inspection. Okay, color thermograms and control photos are provided of problem areas uncovered during the inspection. That is, different color codings will be given like this. Okay, the cooler zones will be given these colors: blue, violet, indigo, all these things. And as you go towards the right, okay, you can see in the image, I guess, I don't know whether you got the image. At the last of the slide there is a image. Okay, that image shows the cooler regions will be having a color code. As we go towards the right, as we move towards the right of it, okay, the color changes to green, yellow, and finally it is going into the red zone, which is the warmer region. Okay, this color coding is given so that you can easily identify which region of your photograph is having more temperature concentration. That means something is wrong there, or something is not proper there. Okay, this color coding helps us to identify that region very easily. Okay, types of thermographic inspection. Okay, from this slide, this is your long answer question. Without learning these things, if at all you go to your examination, you will be caught. Okay, because this is the heart of this unit. These inspection types, like, see, infrared thermography is basically divided into two types: active type and passive type. Further, your active type is divided / external excitation. Okay, and second category is mechanical / internal excitation. Okay, further, your optical external excitation is divided into two categories. One is pulsed and second category is lock-in thermography. Okay, similarly, your mechanical or internal excitation can be further categorized as vibrothermography. Okay, vibrothermography, and it further is classified into two categories. One is burst and second one is lock-in. Okay, so this slide is very important. Okay, in the coming classes also we will be covering all these methodologies, and this forms a very standard long answer question which you might be encountering in your mid examination as well. Okay, so please study this one. This is very important. Okay, in your main examination there can be questions which can be framed, or they might separately ask you about lock-in external excitation thermography. So they can specifically mention what type of technology they want you to write. Okay, or simply, if at all they want to give you a very long answer, they can post a question like this: write about infrared thermography or types of thermographic inspections. Okay, in that case you have to write all these things. Okay, I'm going to tell those things once again. Please see. Okay, basically your infrared thermography is of two types. One is active thermography, second one is passive thermography. Your active thermography is further divided into two categories. One is external excitation, which is also known as optical excitation. Okay, second category is internal excitation. If at all you want to easily remember, you can remember it like this: external excitation, internal excitation. Okay, your internal excitation is also known as mechanical excitation. Okay, further, your external excitation is divided into two categories. One is pulsed and second one is locked, which is a part of your internal excitation, that is also divided into two categories. One is burst and second one is lock-in thermography. Okay, so today we will be starting off with active thermography. And active thermography, there is a diagram here. As always, whenever there is a diagram, first thing is you have to identify all the parts. You have to see how these parts are linked with each other, what is the exact relationship between them, what is the functionality that is there in the diagram. Whenever you observe these things, you can easily remember the diagram and you can easily reproduce the same in your examination. Okay, so let me read out the parts in this. I can see there is an IR camera which plays a very important role. Without IR camera, non-contact inspection cannot be done. Okay, so IR camera is an integral part here that is there. Okay, there is a processor and there is also a display, and in the display, okay, you can see blowholes in display. Okay, blow from a subject, that is, or a specimen which we want to test. Okay, which is having subsurface defects. Towards the left of your diagram you can see the specimen which is being tested. It is having subsurface defects. These are your blowholes. The same blowholes those are displayed in your display. If at all you can see towards the right, okay, towards the right, the same whatever defects are there, those defects are displayed in the display. Okay, between all these things there is one more thing which is very very important, that is your external source of heating, which is also known as your stimulus. Okay, that means we are using an external source of heating. By usage of this external source of heating, we are doing the infrared testing on a specimen. Whenever we are going to use an external source, that can be classified as your active thermography. Okay, so I'm going to repeat it once again. Please listen. There is a processor here, there is a display which is to be tested. Also there is a IR camera. Okay, and among all these things, one thing which is extra here, the remaining things what I have listed down till now, they are essential things for a test to carry out. Okay, but one extra thing is your external source of heating. Excuse me. One extra thing is your external source of heating. Okay, whenever you are going to use an external source of heating, okay, such thermography is known as your active thermography. Okay, I'll read out the text. In active thermography, an energy source is required to produce a contrast between the feature of interest and the background. Okay, so we are going to use an energy source. The active approach is preferred in many cases as the specimens are generally in equilibrium. The specimens are generally in equilibrium with the surroundings. Okay, so generally what happens is that whatever specimen you are going to functionality, okay, this will be in equilibrium with the surrounding temperature. Okay, therefore you require some external excitation so that your IR camera can catch the actual exact thing what is going on with the specimen. Okay, example of this is a specimen with internal defects. Okay, I hope everybody understood this. These things are important, so I'll be repeating them a couple of times. Please don't feel bored. Okay, so whenever you are going to use an external source of heating, such thermography is known as or can be classified as active thermography. Okay, I'm going to go to the next slide, slide number 31. Okay, slide number 31. It reads, a wide variety of energy sources can be used to induce a thermal contrast between defective and non-defective zones. Okay, so whenever you are doing a testing, you will be dividing the specimen in zone and your non-defective zone. That will be decided after you get the thermal image. Okay, so for this purpose you are going to use some external sources. Okay, these external energy sources can be used or internal energy sources can be used. Okay, external energy sources, what is going to happen is that energy is delivered to the surface and then propagated through the material until it encounters a flaw. Okay, examples of this are photographic flashes for heat pulse simulation or halogen lamps for periodic testing. Okay, so further your external energy or external applied active thermographic methods can be classified into two categories: pulsed thermography and lock-in thermography. Okay, pulsed thermography and lock-in thermography. Okay, I'll go back once again because we are running out on time. I'll just quickly explain this once again and I'll close it. Okay, in the next class we will see pulsed and active is further external excitation and internal excitation. Okay, external excitation is further of two types, pulsed and lock-in thermography. Okay, and your internal excitation is further into vibrothermography, which further can be divided into two categories, burst and lock-in. Okay, then we discussed about what is meant by active thermography. Active thermography is very simple. That means you are going to use an external source of heating. Okay, you are going to use an external source of heating. Here in this we are using a flash lamp. Okay, we are using an external source in the image that you are seeing. Okay, such type of thermography is known as active thermography. Okay, and this active thermography has got two types of stimulus sources. That is, one is external source, one is internal source. Okay, one is external energy source and second one is internal energy source. Okay, External energy source is further again divided into two categories. Okay, pulsed thermography. We are going to start with these two topics in the next class. Okay, I'm going to end my lecture here. Okay, our next class will be on Tuesday. Okay, Tuesday we are going to continue from pulsed thermography. Okay, thank you. I'll be starting the next session. You can join the DMM session in a couple of minutes. Okay.